All right, welcome to the Unleash Your Potential Summit. It's a career summit, career transformation summit. So this is how we're going to go. If you don't mind, go on mute just so that we have a smooth event. So this is the agenda. We're going to do like a bit of introduction and welcome X, Y, and Z, and that's what I'm doing. After that, we'll have the honor and the privilege of hearing from Professor Ndubuisi Ekekwe. Prof is big. And then we have few sponsors, people who have provided us with support and funding to be able to run this. We'll hear a message from one of the sponsors first. After that, we will hear another keynote presentation from Jermaine, the job father. And then we'll play a game. One of the sponsors also has given us $50 to give to the winner of this game. Then we have a third presentation from Emal. If you are in the BA and the PM and the tech space and you don't know Emal, then I will be shocked. I will ask you to go back to where you started from. After Emal's keynote presentation, I was talking to Emal and he said there's some goodie that he's going to give to you. Fingers crossed on that one. After Emal's presentation, keynote presentation, we'll have another message from one of our sponsors. And then I will hand it over to my brother, the eloquent Marcus Udokang, who will facilitate and moderate the panel discussion. The panel discussion has speakers from AI, from PM, from BA, from product management, Banu, to DevOps, all the way from the UK. We'll run for about 20 to 30 minutes. The set of questions that Marcus will run through the speakers, and they will answer. And then if you have any other question, you can ask them. After the panel discussion, we'll do maybe one more game, and then we'll create breakout rooms. The breakout rooms will have different speakers and panelists. And that's where you get the opportunity to enjoy some one-on-one, one-to-many coaching. You can ask your specific questions, like Dr. Charles Igwe. You can ask him questions around project management, questions that you may not be able to ask in a larger audience. You can ask Banu about product management, how to get in, and the skills to develop and all of those things. After the breakout sessions, we'll come back and I'll officially introduce you to SixDots. I'll do some final word and I'll see you around. But before I invite Prof, I want to check where we're all joining from. So if you have your phone with you, you can just scan the QR code or just go to slido.com and put in the pin 2004-905, and you see this question. Just put the country that you're joining from. I know we have folks from Canada, we have folks from Nigeria, we have, okay, so what you would put in will be not the code, but the country that you're joining from. We'll do this in 1 minute, and after that, you'll hear from Prof. So we have San Diego, nice. We have Nigeria, we have the US, we have Canada, we have the Netherlands. Okay, Netherlands, this is good. Okay. This is really cool. We have Colombia, of course. Colombia, US, Canada, the USA, nice, cool stuff. India, we have someone from India, nice. US, looks like US and Canada kind of like leading right now, US, Canada. That's good. All right, well, we can continue to put the chats in or to put where you're joining in from. Ladies and gentlemen, let's start with a keynote presentation from Professor Ndubuisi Ekekwe. He's the lead faculty at Takedia Institute, but he's much, 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 much more than that. Professor Ndubuisi invented and patented a robotic system that the United States government has acquired the assignee rights. I consider him one of the biggest talents to come out of Africa. I call him the pride of the world. He holds 2 doctoral and 4 master's degrees, including a PhD in engineering from Johns Hopkins University. He is so much more. Ladies and gentlemen, please give Professor Ndubuisi a round of applause virtually, and if you can unmute yourself as we hear from him. I've spoken to him a number of times, and he advises governments, leaders all over the world. Thank you so much, Prof. Please, I'm going to stop sharing. Please take it away.
Great. Thank you so much. And distinguished ladies and gentlemen, please just confirm that my voice is audible, that you can hear me. Please just confirm so that we can get started.
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you so much. Unleashed Career Summit. I'm so honored and certainly privileged for this opportunity to come here to have a conversation with you on career and how you can actually unleash your potential. I'll be speaking today on a topic I have titled Unleashing Your Potential for a New Era. And but I just say thank you and to all of you. So I'll begin with this word map. If you look at this map here, it's very, very colorful. It's very, very exciting to me. And in this world, there are many, many challenges. What I've called frictions. Yeah, I think you may need to mute so that we can just, yeah. Admin, you can just mute everyone.
Okay.
And make the speaker a co-host at a time. Yeah, so that, yeah, you can just mute everyone.
Right. Yes, I'm doing
okay,
that.
Great. Okay, great. Thank you. So if you look at this map here, it's a world map. And I know I have 15 minutes, so just make sure that I'm optimized. It has many frictions. The frictions of war, the frictions of lack of basic healthcare, the frictions of lack of good educational system, the frictions of hunger. There's just so many frictions in this world. Interestingly, there are also opportunities because those frictions, if you look at them critically, they are also vistas of opportunities for many people. So you have frictions, you have challenges in the world. But one thing I would like to note here is that there has been a very consistent mechanism how the world solves those frictions. Whether you are having a friction of lack of clean water, whether you're having a friction of not having electricity in your house, the world has developed over generations a framework to overcome those frictions. And that framework is what we call business, or what we call companies, or what we call farms, or what we call a market system. And what does it do? What a market system does is creating products and services which are now going to be deployed into the market to overcome those frictions which we see in the world. So let me make it a little bit easy for us to appreciate the implication of having companies in our world. And I like to give this example. Consider a scenario where there is no restaurant, there is no business called restaurant. And Ndubuisi lands in the city of Toronto, and there is absolutely no business vector called restaurant. If Ndubuisi arrives in Toronto today and he's very hungry, the only option Ndubuisi has is possibly to start knocking at people's door looking for somebody who has food to serve, because there's no restaurant. And I don't have a family member I can go to his house to eat. If I don't want to start knocking at people's door, that means I go hungry. But you agree with me that that system is inherently imperfect in nature. because there is that propensity that the time I knock on the first 100 doors, I may even collapse because I'm very hungry. So what happens? What happens there is that a young man, Mr. Charles or Mr. Bola, decides to go and set up a business. And that business is Bola Restaurant Global Limited. And what that business does is to say, hey, next time you're hungry in Ndubuisi, you don't have to start knocking at people's door. You just come to this massive world-class restaurant. You know what is going on there? The restaurant is trying to overcome the friction of hunger which Ndubuisi has. And why is that necessary? It's necessary because businesses help us to accomplish one thing. Businesses help us to overcome the information asymmetry problem which are evident in our market system. So when I was hungry, he had that food, but he didn't know that I was hungry. And he had the food, and I didn't know he had the food. So the only way we can attain equilibrium point is when he goes to open up a restaurant. And by opening up that restaurant, next time Ndubuisi is hungry, instead of knocking at people's door in Toronto, what do? I go to that Bola restaurant. And when I go to that Bola restaurant, they are now going to serve me food because that is what that restaurant is created for. And when that food is served to me, what happens? I pay a fee. I pay money. That money is a compensation to that restaurant for overcoming the friction of hunger to me. So we say that revenues are things that companies are compensated with for helping us to overcome the challenges that we have in the market system. And in this case, is a problem of hunger. You can also apply the same constructs in banking. Why do people open up a bank? Let's assume there is no bank in the United States. You go to New York, but you have $1,000 with you in New York. And you have that $1,000, you don't have any need for it over the next 1 year. You want to find somebody that you can give that $1,000 at the end of the year, the person pays you 5% interest rate. You may not find that person easily because you also want to make sure that after giving that 1,000, the interest and the principal will be returned with no story told. So what do? You start looking at someone. At the same time, there is also another person who needs that 1,000, but he can't find you. Because both of you cannot attain equilibrium so that transaction can take place, there is a need for a bank. And then somebody opens up a bank. You take that 1,000, you give it to the bank, and the bank now takes that 1,000 and lend it to that person. At the end of the day, the bank has overcome that friction which existed between two of you. So we say that businesses exist to overcome frictions which exist between demand and supply, which exist between customer and producers. So if businesses are created for that purpose, what is really needed for those companies? We said that those businesses need to have capabilities. You need to have capabilities because you need capabilities to be a very good restaurant business. You need capabilities to be a very good bank. In other words, for that food to be prepared, they need to have capabilities in preparing food. For that banking operations to work, they need to have capabilities in operating banking, credit services, and all things they do in banking. So the mission of firms, capabilities are very, very fundamental. Now, what are the components of these capabilities? The first part is that you need knowledge. You need to run a restaurant, you need the knowledge of the business of restaurants. You need to run a bank, you need the knowledge of the business of banking. You need to run insurance business, you need the knowledge of that. And there is also that spirit of entrepreneurial capitalism, labor. And all these things are all encapsulated under people, processes, and tools. So the capabilities that we seek in the market system to overcome the frictions in market, they become an embodiment of the total potentials of companies. I'm trying to connect the mission of firms and our individual potentials. Why we need to go to universities, why we need to go to boot camp, why we need to learn, to study, to acquire skills so that companies can hire us. Interesting thing because companies need to organize, reorganize factors of production to enable them to create products and services which are now important and strategic for them to now create those products which are now going to be sold to customers. It's key to know one thing, that frictions are forces. they are resistive in nature. And going back to elementary physics, how do you overcome frictions? You apply another force. In markets, the only force that we need to apply, those forces are products and services. It's only when you apply the product of food to a hungry man, that is where you overcome the friction of hunger. It's only when you apply the product of banking service to somebody who needs a banking service, that is the time you overcome the friction of lack of banking service. The only friction you need, somebody is sick, he goes to a hospital. What force do you need? Get a medical doctor, get a nurse, apply healthcare delivery service. That is the service, that is the force to overcome that friction that person has, which is lack of medical care. So my point is this: businesses exist to create products and services, which are forces which are released into the market to overcome frictions that customers have. And to create those products and services, they need to have capabilities. And those capabilities are embodiments of we, the people, who are brought together to now create those products. Some are going to be engineers. Some are going to be accountants. Some are whatever you are. At the end of the day, is a composite. The more you can deepen your capabilities and create better products and services, the more competitive you are in the markets. Because that means that you can create better products, create better services, a better cost model, even at a higher level of quality. And if you do that consistently, you do. So we can now see, how can we unleash these potentials? You can see many parts. The parts of we work for other people, get them paid employment, and also pursue the path of entrepreneurship. But there is something I want to hammer today. One thing I want to hammer today is this, that across human history, if you see the application of your potential to be based on numbers, you are actually going to do very well. So let me give an example. During the great debates where the Greek philosophers were looking at the more fundamental constructs of the universe, they were trying to ask themselves, what is the world made of? Thales said the world was made of water. Heraclitus said the world was made of fire. But I like what Pythagoras said. Pythagoras said the world is nothing but numbers. He said the numbers rule the universe, that the universe is nothing but numbers. And if you do believe, as Pythagoras noted, that the world is nothing but number, the implication is this, that even your career should be governed by numbers. Because the numbers in our society, the numbers in retail, the numbers in banking, the numbers in restaurant business, we organize those sectors because the world is nothing but numbers. Across human history, we have been trying to do one thing, to make sense of numbers. From the abacus to slide rule to ENIAC, UNIAC, to the invention of transistor by Shockley, transistor microprocessor by Robert Noyce, Jacobi, and even at this age, we have been trying to use numbers to understand the universe. And that means that anybody who is pursuing a career, or anybody who wants to unleash his or her potential, you need to ask yourself, what are the numbers around a particular sector? And that is also going to tell you how the world is moving, because the world is encapsulated in data. I mean, I like to use the word numbers because it gets it more mathematical, but you can use the boring one called data, which guys in computer science like to use. But we that are purists in mathematics, we like to use numbers. So go through human history. There is a number that drove the world at this point. There is also a number here. There is also a number here. There is also a number here. So I have said that this era is the world of an inventive phase. There were a lot of inventions, but there were no products and services. The people who lived here were the pioneers in physics and chemistry, mathematics. But many of them died very poor. If you look at the GDPs of nations over this period, the GDP was flat. And if the GDP is flat, even when population was increasing, the implication was per capita income was decelerated. And if per capita income was decelerated, it means that a generation of people were getting poorer across generations. But do you know what happened here? The GDP started moving exponentially. A flattened linear GDP started moving exponentially. It means that people who participated in careers here were better. People here were better than here, were better than here. So how can you unleash your potential in our world? How can the trajectory of this kind of data shape whatever you are doing? And I've also looked at it that at a time, it was all about invention. We now move into the innovation side. Just because it's 15 minutes talk here, I just have to move very fast. I know that professors don't get 15 minutes to talk, but I understand. So we try to get it fast. So this is where it is now. Invention, society era. Innovation, society era. I have also introduced what I've called the accelerated society era. And in that accelerated society era, we now have these AI systems. We have these autonomous systems. We have this centralized economic system. And if you look at this system, what is going on here is that the numbers, as postulated by Pythagoras, has become very efficient. That means that AI systems are helping us to discover potentials and understand things at a deeper level that we could not have imagined many, many years ago. Very few years ago, your grandmother must have told you, don't enter a car of somebody you don't know. Don't even go to sleep in somebody's house you don't know. But today, Uber makes this thing, we don't even care. The car drops, you just jump into Uber. You don't even care to see the guy's face. What happened? Somebody has used numbers to build a product called Uber, which now essentially made what your grandmother warned you never to do to become common. And then your grandfather said, never visit a city, and you go and sleep in a stranger's house. That's what we do in Airbnb. So what is going on here is that in the accelerated society era, through these number systems, Airbnb could actually determine that that post is not going to kill you. And that is the power of numbers. So my point is this: our world is changing. And I see that in the AI era, which is just right here with us, you need to be AI compliant in whatever you do, whether you are a linguistic, whether you're an engineer, whether you're a doctor, or whatever you do. This is that era. You need to be AI compliant because numbers will drive our careers. And only those that are AI compliant to a large level are going to find the opportunity. It's not a question of saying, let's leave the AI thing for the computer scientists or electrical engineers. No, this is going to change our society because AI is helping us to continue that transformation across human generation. That the more we understand the numbers around whatever we do, the better we can actually be in a position to solve problems. A company which uses numbers to make decisions is going to be a better company that does not use numbers to make decisions. Just like that restaurant business that Mr. Bola started, if he was not using numbers to know when the customers are coming, there is that likelihood that he may be open at 1 a.m. in the morning, hoping that customers will come. Because he will not do that, because numbers will drive that business. That means that deploying numbers brings competitive advantages in market. So this is it. Every society, every market is going to be radically transformed. Knowledge will remain a factor of production, and they're going to come in many forms and ways and across many domains. Using Nigeria specifically here, we have seen the evolution of eras across just in the last 50 years. In the 1990s, we had the new generation banks. When the finest banks in Nigeria today, most of them were born in the 1990s. What did they do? They brought in computer systems and used computer systems to create service-level competitive advantages. Then in 2020s, we now had what we called the 20,000. We have the voice telephony when the telecommunications companies came. In the 2010s, they now turned our phones into bank branches by giving out into the era of mobile internet. Today, we are in the application utility era around the world, where all kinds of products and services are being built, from logistics to e-commerce, financial services. And this is a massive transformation. And in these transformations, new career vectors are going to be built. You don't have to be an engineer to participate. You don't have to be a computer scientist to participate. You can be in any sector. In short, even if you are just on YouTube talking nonsense, there are people that are ready to listen to you. The most important thing here is that you are producing something. The most important thing, you are creating value. The most important thing, that you are involved in that process of creating that force, which is the only way to overcome frictions in the markets. The AI era presents opportunities to every one of us. And the key thing here is that we can go into the world and unleash. across all sectors, across all territories, from real estate to education, to financial services to healthcare. The world is still feeling like we are in a state of infancy, where the world is unbounded. Just look at this company called NVIDIA. Out of nowhere, it's becoming a $2 trillion company. Then imagine what will happen in the next 10 years. Imagine in the next 20 years. And if we think deep into that, we can just see that the only thing that is holding us is when we do not want to actually conquer that fear and move into the world with boldness. Because today, everything is an opportunity, because the world is unbounded and unconstrained in very well. So thank you so much, gentlemen and ladies. I think just watching time here, just to make sure I don't shoot over time. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. So I have learned my lesson. Never give Prof 15 minutes to talk. It's like saying, just put a drop of water from a time. Thank you so very much, Prof. If anyone has any question, I know Prof has to run first.
No. I have time here, please. I have time, but I just want to respect your schedule of keeping to 15 minutes. So go ahead, please. If you have a question, I'm here.
If anyone has any question, this is the opportunity to ask Prof and hear from Prof directly. Dr. Charles Igwe has his hand up, and please take it away.
But I don't really have a question. I just want to say thank you, Prof. I wouldn't know if this was a brief excursion into the business journey or a deep dive into the motivational world, because he said something that was profound, that we need to unlock the force that would help oppose the market friction. And I like to tag that we need to unlock the force within us to help us oppose our own market friction, because in opposing our market friction, we're able to launch what our market is to the world. So, Prof, thank you for those nuggets. It's always a pleasure drinking from your well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Charles. Any other person has any thoughts, question, comment to Prof's presentation? I think everybody is taking it in.
Okay, thank you so much.
I have a question, Prof.
Okay, go ahead.
Now, I like the way you related our personal lives to the business world. What are some specific techniques you can give or prefer for helping individuals who intend to launch into the business world as startups, or individuals who are looking to unlock their potentials? What techniques or strategies would you give for helping to unlock those market forces? What techniques do you use to unlock new market forces?
Yeah, I think the key thing here is to look at specifically your own market, because the technique you may need in Canada may be different from what you may need in Nigeria, India, and other parts of the world. If you are trying to start a logistics company in New York, I will just tell you, forget about it, because that problem has been solved possibly maybe 50 years ago. If you are trying to do that in Ogadagu, or maybe trying to do that in Nigeria, you have an opportunity. So the technique you need has to consider your geography or location, because most of these opportunities are locally relevant. But when you go at the global scale, some skills that may help you do well in Lagos may not necessarily be relevant in Toronto. But one thing is a constant, irrespective of a location. We need to have that self-confidence that we can actually go into the market, and if we are confronted with any challenge, that we have that endogenous capability to actually overcome those challenges. So for instance, you are trying to launch a startup and you feel within yourself that you are not ready. You just think that you cannot do it. But I would tell people, if you look at the business plan of ABMD, 99% of the world will not believe that that business made sense. That somebody will have a room in his house, And if you can give him $10, he will allow you to come and sleep overnight. In the morning, he will give you breakfast. That is a air breakfast and is it air bread and breakfast? I mean, it made no sense that such a thing was possible. But here are we today. It's a multi-billion-dollar company. So when you look at such cases, something comes into mind. Am I really overthinking this problem? Or do I just behave like a little baby? You know, when babies fall, they always fall forward. But they start to walk. When they fall, they rarely fall backward. So you just say, let me throw my word into this opportunity and let me fall forward. Because that is the way babies learn, and that is also how they become great. But if we don't have that confidence, we may not take an action. I'll say this, there is never a greater mission in the world that has been accomplished until somebody takes an action. You need to take an action before something good can come out of any scenario. And if you never take an action, nothing will come. So have confidence, try, push into the market, and you can actually be surprised the opportunities that the markets bring to you. I think there was a, Shay has a question there. Please go ahead. Okay, it's like raise the hand. So finally here, just to note here, it's when we are talking about potentials and unleashing your potential, it's also key that we don't start this unnecessary comparison. That my colleague was in the bank, is a director, that means I have to be in the bank. The other guy has become a startup founder and he raised $1 million in Lagos. That means I have to leave my consulting job to start a startup. That, oh, my colleague who was in the army has been promoted to brigadier general. That all of us have different calls. And when you understand that we have different calls in this world, that is like going into an orchestra where all the musical instruments have to rhyme, synchronize for you to have a magical moment in that orchestra. So some of us are going to be directors in banks. Some of us are going to be CEOs. Some of us are also, to a large extent, going to be pilots. So the key thing here is trying to be the best in really what you can be. And that is the reason why, when you look at the most successful people among us, all of them are not from the same field. There are some that are bankers. There are some that are also politicians. So if we do that, we can stay focused instead of you run from this today, you run from, I mean, I have seen cases where young people drop out of universities complaining that when I finished secondary school, I was better than this guy. He went into business. I'm still in university, he has bought a car. I don't know. Such things happen. And then you want to drop out of school because somebody left for business. We can't do that. Unleashing your potential means having a strategy, having a plan, knowing that what you are doing, you know where you are going. And as you pursue that to be the best in it, the world will find a way to reward you. Because the frictions in the world, the more problems they are solving, the more problems they are creating. And the more problems there are, and the more opportunities are there. Yesterday, there may not be AI engineer opportunity in Lagos, but today we have them. So let's just go and continue to do best. I want to wish everyone good luck. Thank you so much for the invitation.
Prof, I have a question.
Okay, let's.
I'm still here if he starts. If you can take it, go ahead, please.
All right.
Hello, good afternoon. Thank you so much, Professor, for your lovely, important speech and presentation. So I had a question. You just mentioned something about not comparing yourself to others. In this day and age of social media where you're seeing what everyone is doing, how can you still use it as a tool, but yet still be very individualistic in this kind of day and age? Thank you, sir.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we need to be inspired by what other people are doing that we find extremely very great. But we also just want to make sure that we do not use that, maybe what we call success, to now start beating ourselves down. The fact is that all of us are accomplished. All of us are amazing. There are so many beautiful things that all of us have actually accomplished. And when we realize that, we can actually say, hey, I'm just doing well, but I need to, my tomorrow has to be better than today. And today has to be better than yesterday. That means the effort I put, I need just to keep putting those efforts. But it doesn't matter that, hey, he's now the CEO, because maybe the father owned a bank, or maybe had a very, 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 very successful uncle. So by the time we try to see, I need to push myself to the best I can, and I need to stay focused. I need to be inspired by what others have accomplished, but I don't necessarily need to start this unhealthy comparison. You are going to find fulfillment in your life, and you are actually going to find energy to move to the next level. But if you have a life where, oh, this person is doing better than me, this person is doing, and you're just trying to beat your spirit down, you may not even have the energy for the next day. And that is also where people now lose total control about themselves, because they are filling their minds with so much negative energy that they can't find something good about themselves. Here you see me, I'm from the best village. I attended the best secondary school, attended the best university. There is really just no way you can think in your life that you accomplish that is better than mine. Hey, I make my village to be like the best village, because for me, that was where I was born. And that was where I began. Whether I went to university in the secondary school in the village, and you say, why didn't you attend the same village secondary school attended? Possibly, I cannot say it was is the best, but for me, it was certainly the best for me. And if I accomplish, and if I felt that was the best, it gives me energy that I can actually get to the level where those who attended federal government colleges, whatever, to get to. So that is my own perspective in the whole thing about life. Because of one thing, if you are in a job and somebody gives you another job, and the day you start that new job, you are 100% ready. Let me tell you, you have not been promoted. You just change your job title. Life is better when you know I may not be 100% ready for that new job, but you have intrinsic capabilities that right in that new job, you can rise up to that occasion. So, and that is the only way, as a general manager, you can apply for a job as a director. Remember, nobody was created a director in a company. Nobody was created a CEO. Somebody has to be director or not even be a CEO to become a CEO. So people that make those decisions, they can't say, hey, I've never been a CEO. How can I apply for a CEO job? Who was ever always a CEO before he became a CEO? So when I mentor young people, I say, that's not the way it works. This man you see who is a director, he was never a director before he became one. So when I use this talk here saying you are not ready, and that is where we need to fix it. And if you have that vision, if you have that capability, you have that mindset shift, you will know that you are even overqualified, that you can take that next step. And most times when you do, you just be fine with yourself. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Prof. There's one person who has one final question. Hopefully that will be the final question. Prof, are you willing to take that?
Yes, please. I'm here. Yes, please. Go ahead. I mean, yeah, thank you.
You can take it away.
All right. Thank you so much, everyone. And thank you so much, Prof. It's really been very insightful, what I've heard. So I just have a very quick question. So I'm bringing it back to data. I think I like to have insight into this since I have data. But my question is, with the rate at which the advancement is going on and data is changing at every time, so for startups and even for professionals working with the trend, at what point do you, first of all, what are you looking out for when you want to go with numbers and say, okay, this will influence my decision making and this will help me know if, this is viable? What exactly are we looking at? And at what point do we stop and say that, we don't go into paralysis, having to find so many information and not acting on our potentials? So I just want you to look at the data part. What exactly should we be looking out for when we have all of these numbers and they are actually changing, as time, with time?
Okay, that's a very great one. And let me say here that the best thing for us to do is to look at what is our strategic vision, let's say career-wise. even as a company, what is your vision? Now, within that vision, you encapsulate the mission, how you are going to get there. It could be that technology and all these data systems are just components towards getting to that. If you try to follow how things are changing daily, ChatGPT here, Google, Gemini, Bard, you could actually just get lost. But if you have a strategic vision that, hey, I want to be very, very relevant in the career of the future by having capabilities within the AI space, for example, and then you set up that strategic vision career-wise, you can now look at that vision and put all the pieces. But if you are going at the level of operation, that is where it becomes very, very noisy. And so as a business or as a startup, you say, what do we want to accomplish in this business? Technology does not solve problems. Technology does not make a company successful. What makes a company solving customers' friction? But technology is a component upon which you build products and services to actually go and solve those customers' problems. So when you understand that the most important thing is having that product that solves customer problems, not necessarily technology, it makes it easier for you not to be every day totally focused on the operational needs of what a technology can give to you. So you say, this is our strategic vision for this company. We want to deliver a 20% reduction on time this product is delivered to the customer. And you sit down and say, which product has the capability to give it to us, which technology? You can say, okay, ChatGPT helps us to edit whatever we have to edit. Now, you pick it. You go with it. It gives you that 20% reduction on the speed of product delivery. But if you don't have that vision set forward, you are going to be lost. Is ChatGPT better than Gemini? Gemini better than Bard? Is Bard better than... And those things are not really the key things that will help you to advance in that business. And the same thing happens in careers. One of the things I did when I joined the banking sector in Lagos many years ago was to plot a matrix of all the executive directors in banks. I was trying to see a pattern, a commonality among those big people. They were really big people because they had their drivers and their cars. And as a kid, I just came out of university. Why not? So I saw there was a commonality. And that commonality was all of them were chartered accountants. Most of them were chartered accountants. I said, okay, if I have to stay in this banking sector, I also must be a chartered accountant, even though I studied electrical electronics. So I started ICANN because I also saw. So the issue here is, what is that vision you have for yourself? Now, you look at the mission, the pieces that you need to get there. If you say this piece can get me there, most times you don't have to be so distracted with other things, because Ndubuisi had wanted to be a director if he had stayed in the bank, and being an ICANN certified or whatever, a chartered accountant would have helped him more. Even if you now brought other things like professionals in supply chain procurement, I say, no, those men and women there, they didn't have all these things a lot. It was ICANN I saw, and I will stay focused on that ICANN. That is what I mean by numbers. Numbers will bring clarity to you, and numbers can direct you. And that is why Pythagoras was saying, hey, listen, if you look at the numbers in retail, you see the business of retail. If you look at the numbers in healthcare delivery, you see the business. If, in short, people that do gambling and casino, what do? They look at the numbers to build protocols and models. If you don't look at the numbers, you cannot understand the business. And that's why he said, the universe is nothing but numbers. Those who understand numbers better about the universe will win the universe. That's why America is the superpower today, because it really makes sense of the world better than all of us, because it had better tools to do that. But at individual and business level, of course, we can also do at our own levels. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Prof. Thank you so much for the insight, for pouring your knowledge to us. We appreciate you so very much. Thank you. God bless you. God bless, everything that you do.
Okay. Good luck, everyone. Bye-bye. Thanks.
Thank you. All right. If you've recovered from that, let's move on to the next one. So we have this message from one of our sponsors. We've been blessed to have some organizations support us in putting this together in one way or the other. And we just want to give them some shout out. So we have this message from one of our sponsors, J29 Immigration Services.
Welcome once again to the Unleashed Career Summit by SixDots Growth Inc. My name is Odunola, and I am the founder and lead consultant at J29 Immigration Services. At J29, we're your hub for everything that has to do with Canadian immigration. So if you're looking to study, to work, or live permanently in Canada, feel free to reach out to us. You can look us up on our website, www.j29immigration.com. You can also follow us on all social media platforms at J29 Immigration. If you'd like to send us an email, hello@j29immigration.com. We will be more than happy to assist you to fulfill your Canadian immigration dreams. I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of your time at the summit today. And remember, we are your one-stop hub for Canadian immigration. So please feel free to reach out to us. Thank you.
All right, thank you to the folks at J29 Immigration Services. You can check them out at www.j29immigration.com. Let's move on to the second keynote presentation. This is from Jermaine. He's popularly known as the Job Father. Jermaine is currently working on helping 500 Black professionals unlock and unleash their potentials in the tech market. He's a career coach, he's a speaker, he's one of the most influential people in Canada and outside of Canada. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Jermaine.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
100%.
Okay, awesome. I am just going to share my screen just so we have the nice little background. But thank you to the Unleashed team. Thank you, Bola, and thank you to everyone here that has decided to spend their weekend with us. Greatly appreciate it. As mentioned, my name is Jermaine. I also go by the Job Father. That was not a name I gave myself, but you know, I know good marketing, and I am a big storyteller. So, you know, when somebody said that, yo, you got me an offer I can't refuse, you're the Job Father, my first reaction was to go, hey, yo, I think you're cooking with something right there. So today, I you know, one of the things that I would say that's a core component to me helping people, you know, reach success in their career is by encouraging them and educating them on how to properly tell stories, not only, you know, of their own experience, but also of themselves, their morals, and what their initiatives are and their missions are. And what we want to do and why stories are so powerful is that we attach emotion to that information. And science actually says that information is better received for the human brain when it's attached in a story because of all the emotional receptors that do get stimulated. And again, empathetic centers as well. If you ever watch a good movie, or if you ever read a good book, you can always feel and appreciate and understand where the main character is coming from, especially if the story has also been executed and told thoughtfully and with the right context. Honestly, the reason why I have this perspective is because my earliest memory of my dad, and I have a Jamaican background. I'm a son of Jamaican immigrants here in Canada. They came up in the 70s. I was born in the 90s. But my earliest memory of my dad was of him at a Domino's table. And if you know Jamaican culture, you know how big Domino's is to our culture. And he was a legendary Domino's player. But the thing that always rang true for me was just how he was able to captivate everyone at that table with the stories that he was telling, right? There would always be a story that accompanied his games. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a correlation between games won and stories told. But I made these like 3 observations as a child, and they've kind of stuck with me my whole entire life. The first one was just how he was able to captivate his audience, his opponents, his teammates, the people that in the crowd. He was able to tell these intricate, believable stories that were filled with humor, depth, and a lot of times tragedy. And depending on what his intention was, his audience felt what he wanted them to feel. And my second observation as a kid was just how digestible his framework and storytelling made complex information for people to not only remember, but also, again, to feel and relate to. And the last observation I made was that it gave him a sort of power around each situation that he was in. You could never throw my dad off guard if he was in the middle of telling a story, because he could either just pivot to a detail that would be relevant or pivot to another story that had a greater impact. But one thing he was always going to do was capture your attention. Now, when it comes to your career, your entire journey, your life, your different jobs, they're all relevant to the pursuits that you're having in this current day and what you want to go for in the future. And the way to effectively tie everything together is to understand how to present the information in a story. And this is how I help people at this point in time. Since 2019, this is how I've helped 399 Black people get new jobs in tech, was by getting them to know how to tell their story and make the connections to how their past gave them the skills to succeed in their future. Before I jump into this, and I'm going to actually give you some game today and break down all of the techniques, the strategies that we use to employ stories and to make sure that our clients and the people in our community are best equipped. I'm going to tell you two quick stories, ironically enough. The first story is of my biggest flop in an interview. Some of you may know, if you're from Toronto, you may be familiar with the station G98.7. When I was in my early 20s, I interviewed at G, and it was the worst interview of my life. The first thing that went wrong is that when I sat in front of the person, I was dripping in sweat. I had wanted the job so badly that I had set myself up for failure by psyching myself out and giving it much more importance and attention than it needed. The second thing is, every time this person asked me a question, it took me off guard, and I either tried to answer the question directly, or I started my way through and just ended up passing it. Somehow I got the internship, but I think that was just because they needed more bodies than they had. But I always think back on how that was the most embarrassing moment for me throughout my career, or just throughout any time I've ever interviewed. And I have a feeling if you've interviewed and you've had an interview that flopped, you kind of know what I'm talking about. So when I went back to the drawing board, I asked myself, how can I frame everything that I was trying to say to this person in a way that I didn't feel or come across as a fool, or I didn't know how I was talking about? And this is when my dad threw some Jamaican wisdom at me. I can't speak patois, so please don't expect me to quote him bar for bar in the patois. It's not going to happen. But basically what he told me was that I need to know what my stories are, identify what my audience wants to hear, and tell them a story that communicates all the skills that they're looking for, while also giving me the capacity to control my train of thought, my speech, and how I articulate it to my audience. And that is how I launched Jupiter HR. That is the foundation of what we're built on: stories, and how to accurately tell them throughout for your career, so that you're never caught off guard in interviews, negotiations, or just figuring out what your resume should say for that next step. So a little bit about me. As I said, my name is Jermaine L. Murray. I'm the founder of Jupiter HR. Online, I've gone by Jermaine Jupiter, the Job Father, and Audio Chocolate. Audio Chocolate was my radio nickname. I gave that to myself. It didn't stick. I guess Job Father is the better one. I've had over 6 years of actual technical recruitment experience, recruiting for some of the biggest companies that you know, everyone from Google to Facebook to Spotify. If there's a company that you know, there's a high chance I've helped a Black person get a job there. But when it comes to career coaching, I've been doing it for a little bit longer, especially when it comes to resume writing. I specialize in helping and advocating for Black people to get jobs in tech. In Canada, we are less than 4% in terms of representation, and in the United States, we're less than 9%. And I'm striving to try and increase those numbers. I love the Toronto Raptors. I hate the Boston Celtics. So if you're from Boston, We can't be friends, my bad. And as always, I room for everybody Black except for the Boston Celtics fans. I'm joking. I'm rooting for them too. So, as I mentioned before, you know, when it came to my biggest flop of an interview, I had to go back and I had to sit down and try to figure out what exactly went wrong, what I could have done better. And it made me realize that there are so many different elements that make us struggle in telling our stories, but also that makes us struggle during interviews. And I find that imposter syndrome is one of the biggest things, right? We're talking about, we're trying to figure out like how we're a good fit for an organization. And a lot of times we will talk ourselves out of it, right? My suggestion, talk about your passions, talk about how it overlaps, talk about, you know, the connections you have with that company or their product. Another reason is just not understanding what's being asked, right? Sometimes this means we might need to talk about our skills that we're developing. Sometimes it might be talking about how we're addressing a skill gap as a work in progress rather than it just being totally absent. And then the other thing is that I find, especially when coaching Black people, is that society has made it so hard for us to own our wins. It'll be easy for you to find somebody that's willing to take accountability for every single time they had a mess up or they struggled in the workplace or a project blew up in their face. But if you flip the scenario and ask them to brag about themselves, it could be crickets sometimes, right? And the other last thing is just a lack of confidence, right? It's almost like your worst enemy is yourself, because you have this little voice in your head that's saying, who are you to be so confident in what it is that you do? But really, if you think about your body of work, a lot of times you should be impressed with what you've done. And the person you're talking to should be just as impressed. So some of the most frequently asked questions that throw people off during interviews: tell me about yourself questions, what your biggest weakness is, where do you see yourself in 5 years, why should we hire you? What if I told you that you could answer all of these questions just like that if you knew the right stories and the right way to communicate to them and the right way to address what it is that they're really asking about? So in order to properly tell the story, you have to know who your audience is, and not just the interviewer, but the bigger picture as a whole. Part of this is researching the company, right? I'm talking going on every single social media channel that they have: Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. See how they're trending in the news. See what they're like on Google. Look them up on Glassdoor and Reddit. What are people saying about them, right? And then you want to research the product, the actual product. In the previous keynote, we talked about understanding customer intention, and that tech isn't enough to just enable success. You need to have an idea of what your customers want in order to properly address their concerns. And once you can understand the value proposition, the relationship between product or service and customer, you're able to articulate and pick and choose which stories are going to reflect best in terms of your skill set, but also your understanding of an industry, which I will tell you from right now is a huge, huge factor when it comes to determining your success in an interview and whether or not you can navigate difficult conversations in that context. And then finally, researching the person has never hurt, right? Especially if you can get some really good, juicy details about their personal beliefs, who they are, or how they approach the workplace. And a lot of times, this can also give you an indication on what kind of storyteller you want to be in this interview. If it's somebody that is, jovial, can take a joke, likes to hear the details, you can build good rapport with, you can become a storyteller that emphasizes details. If it's someone that's a bit more stoic, they're a bit more serious, they got a little bit of rigidness to them, you might want to be a more concise and conservative storyteller, right? Easing up on the jokes. For me, the latter is extremely hard, but you still find a way to make it work. So when it comes to stories, you can break them down really into 3 main things. And this goes for your career, this goes for interviews, this goes for your resume, right? Every single aspect needs to contain these 3 elements: problem, action, results. Some of you may have heard this acronym as the STAR acronym: situation, task, action, results. I prefer PAR because 3 is smaller than 4, and we all got to remember so much stuff. So let's just keep it simple. For me, when we talk about problem, we're talking about highlighting what is disturbing the status quo. We're talking about what is preventing happiness and satisfaction from our customers or our stakeholders that's bringing us into the fold. Action talks about the actual solutions that we take, both in terms of researching them, but also how we execute on them. And then finally, you always got to wrap it up, right? The end result. We always got to talk about how we solved the problem, who benefited, did we return to the status quo, or do we establish a new status quo that things are just better than before? Think of some of your favorite stories and you'll find that they follow this structure. So when it comes to actual interviews, I know you're probably thinking, all right, Jermaine, this is all well and good now. Like, I like what you're saying, but how the heck do I tell an actual story without rambling or without thinking that, or without going off script? So the first thing you want to do is, again, the value of storytelling. We want to make sure that we're overlapping our skills with our professional narrative. So inside, it's integral for you to feel and remember, again, there are key values when it comes to relation to the job, when it comes to relation to the company, and when it comes to relation to the product, where your passions align. And then you think back into your actual history and figure out what skills, not what jobs, but what skills are relevant to the position or the company that you are currently pursuing. And then you go back into your history and you pick and choose and you identify which jobs had those skills that are most relevant, right? And this is why I always talk to people that are working in retail. Don't discount your retail experience. There's a reason retail is hell, right? It's because it's nuance. It's because there's so much expected from you. And it's because you get exposure to so many different people. You'd be surprised at what kind of skills you pick up in order just to survive that kind of environment. So when it comes to structuring our story, this is the way to go, in my opinion. Let's say you're in the middle of an interview and you got to tell a story. You don't want to ramble, but you want to make sure you capture every single detail. This 3-act structure, I'm a theater kid. This was introduced to me via Shakespeare, via books, novels, TV shows, film trilogies. The 3-act structure of Act 1, Act 2, Act 3 is perfect for interviewing. It's perfect for resumes. It's perfect for articulating and contextualizing your career. Now, when it comes to interviews, Act 1, and think about it from the movie and the book narratives perspective, Act 1 always focuses on establishing what the status quo is and how the problem has been introduced into the status quo to make everything a mess, right? If you think of the Star Wars trilogy, the status quo is Luke Skywalker, on his farm doing his boring stuff, and then the Empire runs into and kills off his whole entire family, and he's got to fight back, right? Act 2 talks about not only identifying the solution, but implementing the solution. To stick with our Star Wars theme, Act 2 would essentially be Empire Strikes Back. Luke realizes that the solution to his problem of the Empire is to become a Jedi. He goes with Yoda, he trains on Dagobah, and then he goes and he fights Darth Vader, and he realizes that, oh, the way to beat Darth Vader isn't by raw force, but it's by figuring out how to get to him emotionally, because that's my dad, right? And then Act 3 is the end result. It's the hero, and in this case, Luke, but you are the hero in your own story. It's the hero identifying and executing the solution, and then bring everything to a head where they change the status quo. So at the end of this example, it's Luke realizing the best way to overcome this evil is to implement his strategy of trying to pierce beyond just the physical, trying to get to the heart of the matter, changing and flipping over Darth Vader into becoming a force of good, and then establishing a new era of peace, which is the end result, which we see at the end of the film. Not going to talk about the sequel trilogy. Don't talk about the sequel trilogies here. Just OG Star Wars. But think about it that way. Problem, action, result. Act 1, you are detailing the problem. Act 2, you are detailing the solution. And remember, You're detailing how you identified the solution, and you're detailing how you executed the solution. That is Act 2 in its entirety. And then Act 3 is you detailing who benefited from the most, right? Your customers, your stakeholders, maybe even yourself. But what was the new element introduced? How did you overcome the problem? What was the new status quo? And how did things move forward? This can be applied to your interviewing. This can be applied to your resume. This can be applied to your career if you have to go and, go for a promotion or transition into a new industry. You want to highlight the skills that help you solve the problems, identify the right solutions, and then get the end result that everybody wants. So I always say in every single interview, you want to have 5 stories to pick from, right? These 5 stories allow you to already have something pre-drawn up, premeditated, right? You always want to have a story of your greatest success. So if a company asks you, tell us what your greatest achievement is or why should we hire you, you tell them about a success that is maybe your personal achievement, something that shows relevant skills to like what it is that you're interviewing for. If a job requires a lot of resiliency and you've climbed a mountain, talk about climbing that mountain, something that you're extremely proud of. The other story is you want to talk about a time that you failed and you became better, right? It's always good to talk about a negative situation and flipping it into a positive, because we all know that working environments are not straightforward. There's always twists and turns. There's always some sort of unheard of or unrelated or unexpected problem that comes our way. And we don't always knock it out the park the first time, but that doesn't mean we give up. And having that trait and showing off that trait says a lot about your character, but also your problem skills and your own personal development. The third one is that you want to have an example of how you helped develop a junior coworker or how you mentored somebody. This is great for showing off leadership skills. It's great for showing communication skills. And it's great for showing off that you're actually a value add to any culture that you come in, because people won't expect for you to just watch someone struggle. You'll actually be willing to help them out. The fourth one is showing off a relevant passion that's relevant to the actual job itself, maybe industry or product wise. It's good to contextualize that you are more than your job, but the stuff that you do outside of your job still helps you better in the job and the career path that you've chosen. And then lastly, you want to talk about any time that you had a major impact at work, right? Something with a lasting legacy. Let's say that you came up with a new way to solve problems because you streamlined an accounting process, and maybe your workplace is still using that till this day, even though you no longer work there. That shows a lot. That shows legacy, that shows initiative, that shows just how important you are. And a company would be lucky to have you, because if they don't, there'll still be a void, right? And that your presence is always felt because you have a positive culture add and professional add to any environment that you're in. So I know I'm a little over time, so I thank you so much for the patience. I thank you for spending time with me. Bola, do we have time for questions, or would you like to move on? I'll leave it up to you.
No, absolutely. If we have like people who want to ask a few questions, if you're willing, why not?
Of course, hit me.
All right. Thank you so much. Please, if you've got any question for the job father, he's here in the next few minutes. Please, you can either unmute yourself and ask the question, or literally just put it in the chat. I'll keep an eye.
I have a few questions in the chat. If I can help out, Bola, there's a few questions in the chat that I think would be very helpful for everyone. There's a question: how do you have such stories pre-planned to ensure you don't keep rambling or go off point?
That is a very good question. So when it comes to the reason why I like the Act 1, Act 2, Act 3 structure is that they make you think of specific points in your stories to kind of anchor around the context, right? So you know that and if you're trying to tell a specific story, you know you're trying to open up with a specific problem, right? Now, you know that you have that problem to work with in the story, but who you're interviewing with will dictate how you tell that story. Like I mentioned earlier, if it's somebody that seems a little bit more conservative and they like things more straight to the point, you can tell the story in a shorter way to get straight to that problem, to get straight to that point. Same with the solution, same with the end result. If it's somebody that you have a bit more rapport with, you can then expand a little bit more, add a little bit more detail. But at the end of the day, you are going to get to that point. Now, what you can do to make sure that you can execute this properly is to record yourself telling the story that you have in mind in different ways. And always remember, you're not trying to stick to a script. You're just trying to make sure that you have your points in the focus. So, you know, I can cut these details out and still ring true to the point I'm trying to make in Act 1, 2, and 3. And if needed, or if possible, I can expand the details and make the story more engaging, depending on who my audience is.
Bola, I not really a question. Jermaine, I've heard so much about you and your storytelling prowess.
Thank you.
So, pictures, if you can, please. If assume, I'd like to get a flair of how to answer the question. Tell us about yourself. Let's assume this was an interview and you were asked the question, tell us about yourself. How would you showcase the Act 1, Act 2, Act 3 step you talked about, if you don't mind? I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but
my man put me on the spot. I love it. I love it. Let's go. Let's go.
Consider yourself on the spot, bro.
All right. So thank you for having me here today. My name is Jermaine. I also go by the Job Father. I am a recruiter who loves interacting and engaging with people. And if you add me to your company, I'll tell you what, one of the things that I've noticed is that there is a lack of Black talent representation in a lot of pipelines. And it's not for a lack of trying, it's just a lot of companies don't know the right strategies to employ or the right places to look. So by having me, and things that I love to do is engaging and educating people on the right ways to approach and retain Black talent. Sometimes that means going out and using our social media credibility to attract and engage people and talking to them directly. Sometimes that means hosting events, encouraging Black applicants to come and learn more about a company or an initiative. But by having me, you have somebody that is always interested in making sure you have a diversified talent pipeline, somebody that's empathetic to make sure that candidate experience is always top tier. And finally, somebody that tells awesome jokes. So like the teams love me. That's something about myself. And finally, I'm a huge Star Wars guy. So if there's anybody that wants to debate Star Wars, you know, of course, after hours, because we don't want to like use up any of our work time unless it's like in my one-on-one with the manager. I'm always a great culture add to any environment that I come into.
And then the response will be, when are you willing to start?
Appreciate that. Thank you for the question.
And you know, I align with a lot of the things that you said. Everything, storytelling. The difference between, I always share this with a lot of my friends, the difference between someone who's got the job and who didn't get the job is not necessarily what they know. It's how they are able to tell the story to the people interviewing them. You see a situation where two people went to the same university, studied the same course, got the job in the same organization, in the same department, wrote the same set of exams, were on the same project. The same two people applied for the same job later, and one person got it. It's not because the first person had better exposure or experience. It's because this guy was able to tell stories. And that's really it. So thank you so much, Jermaine. Any other question for Jermaine before he goes?
I do want to say one thing for everyone in the comments asking. I will be sending this presentation over to Bola. So if I saw a couple people saying they're screenshotting it, no need to screenshot. I will be sending it over to him, and he'll distribute it, or we'll figure out some way to get it to you. But I do appreciate the kind comments in the chat.
And you've got some love from Colombia as well. Maybe that should be your next place to visit.
Baby, hola.
Thank you so much, the Job Father. I appreciate, your presentation, your time, and sharing your knowledge.
Thank you for having me.
All right, we're going to be moving on. I think the next thing is a game, Kahoot, and one of our sponsors is giving $100 for whoever wins that. $100. They just told me that they're changing from $50 to $100. So I'm going to be bringing the Kahoot game up now. All right, so let's go. It's the first one. Get on your phone, go to kahoot.it. When you're there, it's going to ask you for pin game. I'll show the pin game in a minute. All right, so this is the pin game, or you can just scan the QR code, 6825483. It's a $100 win gift for the winner, gift card, Amazon gift card.
My avatar has an eye patch on. I wonder if that means that I'm supposed to be a pirate.
Let's see, pirates always win, huh?
Bola, do you have the sound on? The one from Kahoot?
Yes, the sound is on.
You might not be sharing it, or I don't hear it from my end.
Oh yeah? Can anyone hear the sound?
Not other than your own. I can't hear.
Oh, okay. Let me see why. It may be me asking
the sound is really low. I think you just have to increase the volume.
Okay, what about now?
No, still no.
When you shared your screen, did you oh yes, you did, right? Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know, that's weird. Okay, now I can hear.
All right. Okay, so we're gonna go in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I will leave the pin, the game all through so anybody can join. So this is the first Kahoot game that we're going to be playing. Question 1. I mean, tourism is not bad too. So it's science, technology, engineering, mathematics. 20 people got it right. Okay, name taking is taking the first position, but too early. Number 2. So remember when they say, show me your 32? Yeah. Okay. Name taking still leading, but still early. Number 3. Positive was near. Okay, name taken. Question 4.
Name taken is crushing it.
Search engine optimization. Whoa!
Oh, all right.
That's taking the first position from name taking. Okay. Oh, Mountain Goat Software. I like that. That's my company. Okay. Number 5. Catch up, catch up, catch up. You believe that?
I have no idea.
No, I know.
Only two people knew or guess. Guess.
Yeah.
Yes, I will say. Oh, Thames. Okay. Number 6.
I know this one from the UFC.
Nice. After that. Oh, okay.
Wow.
Here. Okay. Smiling right there. Number 7. Okay, now we know the 6 people that didn't buy the movie or didn't rent the movie or didn't watch the movie. All right. Number 8.
Bola, you're a scam. I saw 2 Destiny. Oh, Jesus Christ. I choose Destiny's girl. Destiny's choice.
All right, let's see. Okay, nothing's going to move that from that position. Number 9. So, Da Vinci painted Mona Lisa, but Dan Brown wrote the book, The Da Vinci. Okay. Second to the last question. Second to the last. True or false?
I think Name Taken has a chance to catch up. Let's see.
Ever heard the speed of light? Yeah. Light travels faster than sound. Okay. With about 700 points clear, this is when Name Taking hopes that something happens to Banu's connection. All right, last question. $100 at stake. It's a deep fight between Banu and Name Taking. Who's gonna take it? I don't know. Last question. All right, I don't think the leaderboard is going to change, at least not the first 2. Third position, we have, let's see, second position. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up to...
Congrats. Close race.
Congrats.
So on behalf of one of our sponsors, Banu, you're going away with $100 in Amazon gift card, by the way. All right, and who's name taking, by the way, just out of curiosity? Who's name taking?
Hi, Bola. Stephen.
Oh, Steve. Oh, Steven. I'll tell you something, right? So Steven, is my own boy. He was in one of my classes, and we used to play this kind of game after each module. And Steven won more than any other person, you know. So he's like a Kahoot's expert. He's a Kahoot SME. Well, you know, you got to meet someone faster than you, which is bad. But good stuff, cool stuff. All right. So Banu, this is taking. Let's move on with the summit. I think the next thing that we have is another keynote presentation from someone who I regard as an authority when it comes to business analysis, not just in experience, but also in teaching. I met Emal 6 years ago. When I got into this country 6 years ago, Emal was one of the first few people that I called to understand the business analysis space, the business analysis terrain, because I've been watching him and all of the things that he's been doing way before I arrived here. So that tells you that he's been in the game way before, you know, a lot of people. In 2019, I organized a conference called Career Hack in Mississauga. Emal was one of the speakers, was actually the main speaker. And the way Emal explained business analysis, I've never heard it that way before. Everybody in that conference told me that they really, from his explanation, from his presentation, they really understood what business analysis is. And I thought, why not, if not? So, ladies and gentlemen, he's the founder of BA Blocks, a platform that is empowering BA professionals with the right skill, in the right formats to take on the business analysis world. Please welcome Emal Bariali.
Thank you so much, Bola. I still remember that very first coffee that we had. So I appreciate you reaching out to me. And, you know, Bola and I have been in contact for a long time, and we've known each other for a long time. And I'm really grateful that he reached out to me when he first came to Canada, because we had a really, really good conversation about what it actually takes to build something that teaches people what they really makes a material difference in their life. And so it was such a great conversation that we had. And thank you so much, Bola, for inviting me. Folks, hopefully, a quick thumbs up. Hopefully you've heard everything I've said and you can hear me. Okay, good. All right. Before I dive in, I want to do a quick recap of the two things I've learned from our previous two speakers. All right, because the professor said something that was very profound, and the job father said something that was very profound. From the professor, the quote that stuck in my mind was that tomorrow has to be better than today. And that has burned into my brain, all right? Because it's a mentality that is thinking in those terms is always going to get you into a better place in life, okay? And so make sure, if you don't take anything else away, that's what I've taken away. And that is, I think, is a key message that you should walk away with. The job father, I love the fact that he came to us with this message of storytelling. And we didn't coordinate this, but I actually have a story to tell you. So I'm going to dive right in, and I'm going to try to stick to the 10 minutes that we have as best as I can. Because in my talk today, my goal is to tell you what it takes to actually become an indispensable business analyst. And we can talk about what that means if we need to. Today, I'm going to be talking to you the story that I'm going to tell you essentially is going to answer 3 questions for you. All right. What is it that hiring managers want out of their business analysts? Where is it that some business analysts go wrong with their career development? And what to do instead of following in the paths of somebody who may be making a lot of mistakes in their career. Okay. And the story that I'm telling you involves these 3 characters: Terhile, okay, who is the manager. He's the hiring manager of the business analyst team at Peterson and Baker. Justin is the junior business analyst in his team, and Shauna is the senior analyst in his team. Called Justin the junior analyst because it just rhymes a little bit. So what does it actually take to become indispensable? Before I jump into that, who am I and what is Peterson and Baker? And I'll keep this very short. I've been in business analysis since about the year 2000. And I'm not going to walk through all of this, but I'll just tell you that in 2000, I started studying business analysis through formal education. I did an undergrad, post-diploma, and a master's. Then I started my business analysis career job where I actually became a junior business analyst, worked my way through intermediate, senior, became a BA consultant. And in 2016 is when I decided I need to start teaching other business analysts how to do this job well. So I'm not going to go through all this. It's all on my resume and on my LinkedIn profile. If you want to connect with me there, you'll see it all. The thing that I want you to walk away with from my talk here is that continuous development, continuous learning is the key to your success. Okay, if you pair what the professor said with what Jermaine said, and take away this message that if you continue to learn, these three things, the right mindset, the ability to tell stories, and your ability to continue to learn new skills, it makes you almost indestructible in the professional world. All right. Peterson and Baker is a company that we have invented so that we can teach business analysis in a simulated enterprise environment. Okay, so that all of the pressures that you would feel in everyday life exist inside of your learning environment, where there's a lot of internal politics. There are people who don't like each other, but they have to work together. And as an analyst in the real world, you have to operate in that world. And so we teach business analysis in this gigantic world of a million things going on between a million different people, and you're still trying to get your job done. Okay, inside of Peterson and Baker, Terhile, that you met earlier, is the manager of the business and systems analysis team. Shauna is the senior business analyst, and Justin is down here working under a different unit under Terhile, okay, in the application support team. And the reason why this is important is because most business analysts tend to start their careers in application support, and their job is to try to get themselves up out of application support and into project work where there is a ton more value that they can produce. And that value always comes with higher compensation that a lot of professionals are looking for. Okay. Now, each of these characters has a backstory, and there's a lot of other stuff that goes on. For example, Lindsay manages the actual product backlog that we have inside of Peterson and Baker. So it's actually like a full organization that we've kind of simulated for you to actually learn business analysis. The thing that Terhile wants out of all of his business analysts, the thing that he wants the most out of all his business analysts is the ability to take a business analyst and throw them at any challenge that comes his way. Okay, there might be a customer who's not happy about something. He wants a business analyst that he can just pick out of his team and say, hey, can you go speak to that person, find out what their issue is so that we can try to figure out how to resolve that issue. Might be a big project coming down the pipeline in the organization, and he wants to be able to pick a business analyst out of his team and say, hey, you need to be the lead. I'm going to give you 2 more business analysts, but you're going to lead this team to make sure that that solution gets delivered properly. Okay, that's what a manager wants. They want a team of high-performing analysts that they can essentially throw at any kind of problem, because not only does it make Terhile's life easier, but it raises the standard of the service that they provide to their customers, which is the rest of the organization. Okay. Essentially, when Terhile has an opening in his position and he wants to hire somebody, he is going to try to find the most versatile business analyst that he can find, because it makes his life easier, and again, it gives his team the ability to have a very high standard for what they're delivering. If he needs specialists who have specific domain or systems knowledge, he might hire them on a contract basis. But for his full-time permanent staff, he wants them to be as versatile as possible. Now, Justin is young. He's just started his career. He's gotten in, but he's making a lot of career mistakes because what Justin, he doesn't have total clarity on essentially the skills that he needs. And he maybe out of fear, he tends to kind of stick to certain skills that he knows really well, and he tries to continue refining those skills instead of branching out and learning additional skills. So what mistakes is Justin making in his career right now? Mistake number one is that he is over investing in some of his skills, okay? He's learned how to produce use cases, but because he's comfortable in that space and he has maybe a bit of a fear of stepping out of that box, he continues to try to build better use cases instead of learning a different skill that's going to make him more versatile. That lack of investment in his other skill set is the second mistake, which is he's underinvesting in the skills that he actually needs because he's trying to over-investing in this other area of the skills that he already has, okay? And essentially what happens with somebody like a Justin is that they spend a lot of time in this way of over-investing in the things they're comfortable with, under-investing in the things that they actually need, and they essentially end up with a lopsided skill set, okay? And lopsided means that you're really, really good at this one thing, but there's this other thing that you need and you don't have. So your skill set's a little bit lopsided. The second challenge that he has is that he has a very fragmented skill set, which means that the skill set that he's kind of accumulated don't really work with each other, right? They kind of solve individual problems, but they don't really work with each other to provide a much higher level of value. So if you were to look at the skill set of somebody like a Justin, the pattern that we notice in a lot of our students and the pattern that I've noticed in working with a lot of business analysts is that they tend to underinvest in learning things like stakeholder analysis, process modeling, because these are the skills that require them to have a lot of customer interactions, right? And so there may be some fear of like going out into the business and actually doing with them because it's so hard to interact with very senior people in the company. The second area where they tend to underinvest tends to be in the areas that give them the ability to talk to their technical customers. And so a lot of business analysts tend to kind of try to stay in this narrow lane where they're really they've learned how to produce user stories, use cases, wireframes, acceptance criteria, but they are underinvesting in these other skills because they're busy trying to continue to refine the skill set that they already have. That is how a Justin thinks. And there are a million reasons why a professional falls into this mindset. Again, a lot of it has to do with the fear of having to face a client. Like if you need to start doing stakeholder analysis management and start running process modeling workshops, means that you're going to have possibly a team of managers, possibly a team of executives that you have to now manage. And that's not an easy thing to do for somebody who's starting their career. So they might shy away from those skills. Technical people aren't knowing to be the friendliest people on project teams, right? They have a very specific job to do. And if you don't deliver what they need, they might not be very nice to you, right? And so business analysts sometimes shy away. They say, oh, I'm going to try to reduce the amount of face time that I have with my technical stakeholders. And so this kind of, it boxes you into over-investing in this skill set that is a relatively easy skill set to learn, okay? You do not want to follow Justin. What you want to do in your career is that you want to make sure that you've chosen the right skill set, and you want to make sure that you're investing the right amount. And notice that investing the right amount doesn't mean you have to learn every skill 100%. Okay, the Pareto principle applies here. 4 stars out of 5 is 80% good. And if you've gotten 80% good at something, it's time to move on to the next skill. You have to force yourself out of the comfort zone that you've kind of brought yourself into. You have to branch out and you have to learn additional skills, because that's how you end up with a focused and integrated skill set. It is that skill set that the hiring managers are looking for. When they interview you, they're going to ask you a lot of different questions about a lot of different things, because they're trying to figure out, is this person capable of dealing with our business stakeholders? Yes or no? Is this person capable of dealing with our technical stakeholders? Yes or no, right? And they're trying to find the most versatile person that they can throw in front of customers on this side of the picture or into customers on the other side of the picture. And your ability to become that type of an analyst means that you have to choose the right skills and you have to make the right level of investment. Okay, overinvestment is the biggest risk. A lot of people tend to not underinvest unless they don't have the resources, right? Overinvestment tends to be a situation where you're just sticking yourself into the little comfort zone that we had drawn out earlier, right? It's very comfortable to learn how to do user stories, use cases, acceptance criteria, and just never branch out and say, okay, I'm comfortable here. That is not a recipe for progress. It is not a recipe for career progression. It is not a recipe for any really kind of meaningful satisfaction in work, okay? If you just need to make an income and you just want to stay in your lane, this will work. But is that the type of career you want? Certainly not for me. That's not the career path I've chosen for my own career. Okay. Why is it that these are the skills that I'm so focused on? That's like a 40-minute conversation we need to have. So 10 minutes is not nearly enough. But luckily, I have recorded that 40-minute conversation and it's available to you here. So if you go to bablocks.com/start, I've essentially spread the reasons, right? There's a full framework that explains to you in detail what the different layers of your skill set are. And it explains to you in crystal clear details using a story to explain to you why you need these skills and how all of these skills fit together. Okay, so if you're wondering why, that's where you get the answer to the why. All right. I hope this has been helpful. I have tried to condense like a 3-hour conversation into 10 minutes, but I'm here to take questions if you have any, and we can go back and talk about anything else that I've said so far.
All right, thank you so much. So just to be clear, this stuff is free. Once people go there, you're offering that no money. How cool is you learn?
Yeah, and sorry to cut you off, Bola. And one thing I want to say is that there is, we do have education programs, but I'm not a salesperson. I'm a business analyst, and there's never any pressure to buy anything. Okay, and we make sure we clarify that for any of our students. If there's a skill that you need, we can help you with, do it. If you are in a situation where you can't, do not buy anything. That 40-minute conversation is completely free and it's spread over 3 days. And you'll get a very, very clear picture, essentially, of what a business analyst is supposed to do. So thank you for mentioning that. Like I said, I'm not a salesperson, so I don't know to explain stuff to you, but I can definitely teach you how to become a good business analyst.
Right. Thank you so much. I think we have someone who wants to ask a question. Please go ahead. We can't hear you through telephone. If you're talking, we can't hear you. Okay. Anyone has any question for Emal on business analysis? What he's just presented? Okay, now we can hear you.
I can hear you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, sorry, I was having some issues with my mic. Thank you very much, Bola, for the Unleashed sessions. And thank you, Emal, so much for throwing more light on the business analyst. My question has to do with something I've noticed of late or since I came into Canada a while back. Can you please elaborate more? And I don't know if that is, if it's I could take it as valid. But I think we have, when it comes to business analysis, we have two different mindsets or two different branches of business analysts I've come to understand. And that I will call one the business process analyst and then the business system analyst. So I don't know if you can throw more light on that, because I'm someone who I tend more towards the process, and I see people who are into the systems where they go more into requirements, gathering requirements, tracing, and all that. And I just want to have a better understanding of that, and basically where do they meet, or are they definitely just two different branches of the same tree?
I am pulling up a picture right now to explain that to you in crystal clear details. And let me just share that
and
with
so which
you.
do you handle? Do you handle both, or it's more of the business systems and that basically?
Yeah, so let's discard that. Let me just make sure I can share this. And I'm going to explain this to you hopefully in a way that makes total sense. I just pulled up some slides that we had from one of our courses that we have inside of our community. Essentially, the best way to look at your business analysis career is to think about it in relation to a lot of other careers that exist within the business transformation universe. Okay, the business transformation universe has a lot of people who are on the business side of things who do business process design, they do business architecture, they do a lot of business process reengineering, which can sometimes become very scientific, right? There's this whole world of professionals who are specializing in making sure processes are working very smoothly, okay? There is this other area of professionals that we have to deal with that are systems implementers, okay? And if I was to kind of explain to you what that universe looks like, we live in this universe in relation to a lot of all of these other professions, okay? And the best way to think about your business analysis career is to think to yourself, where am I inside of this universe, okay? Because this universe, I'll show you that if you really kind of pinpoint where you kind of exist here, you kind of exist somewhere in between. I'm going to go back a couple of slides. The business analyst exists somewhere in between the business architects, change managers, software development, software configurators, and all of these other people who are professionals in things like service management, agile, project management, and all of that. This is essentially where we kind of fit into this overall universe. How you should think about your business analysis career is how far into the world of a process analyst do I want to go? Because that world is very big, right? And then you think to yourself, how deep into the world of a software developer do I want to go? Because that world is very deep, right? As an analyst, you're going to be confronted with different demands on your skill set in different jobs. So you'll enter into one job and they say, business analysts here don't do a lot of technical work. They focus mostly on the customer side. If you're entering into that type of a job, you're going to need to extend yourself a lot into the business world, which means you're going to have to learn process analysis. You're going to probably have to learn a lot of very complicated stakeholder management, okay? You might end up at a different job 2-3 years later on, and they say our business analysts work way more on the technical side of things. And what does that mean? That means now you have to extend yourself very deeply into the technical world, right? Which means you have to really understand developers' language. Can you clarify business rules into essentially black and white for a developer so they can make decisions on how to build something? Okay, so we exist in this universe, and I don't like to give prescriptive answers to a question like that because you're going to experience all of it. So throughout my career, I've been on projects where there is no system component at all. And I'm just working to build a new business process that turns into a company procedure that management has to agree on. And that's it, the project is done. Most of my projects are system implementation projects where it requires me to have an understanding of how enterprise systems work and to figure out how to communicate the business need to our customers using my entire skill set. So I've been everywhere, but that's only because I'm a consultant and I have to enter an environment. I have no idea what their team is like. I have to have the versatility to be able to fill whatever gaps they have for that specific position. 6 months later, I'm at a different company and they have their business analyst role has completely different demands, right? But if you can pick up the skill set that I had communicated, that the starting skill set, if you are going to look at it, is going to be the skill set that, let me just quickly pull that up. Your starting skill set essentially is the stuff that Shauna is trying to learn here. If you can learn how to do good stakeholder analysis, some process modeling, and then bring the user capabilities, explain how a user interacts with a system, you really have a really good handle on how to deal with the business side of your organization. If you want to communicate well with your developers, start by learning how to do wireframes and screen specs. Those are the easiest skills. And then get into the harder skills, which is things like writing good business rules, doing scenario analysis, producing state machine models, producing data models. And part of the reason why we've kind of chosen this as the right skill set is because it's the perfect blend that meshes your technical world with your business world through your role, which is the role of a business analyst. That's why somebody like Ashana is so versatile, right? Because she has invested the right amount of effort into the right skill set, whereas Justin is trying to stay in his comfort zone, right? He's not really too good at the business side. He's not really too good at the technical side. He just wants to kind of explain to you how the user wants to use the system, and that's it. So it's a long answer, but hopefully it paints an accurate picture of how this profession works.
Thank you so much, Emal. Thank you so much. I've watched a lot of your teachings. I've sat, under your presentation, and I've seen a lot of your YouTube videos as well. There was a time you used to speak while driving. I think you should have changed that. But thank you so much. Any other question from anyone? Sorry, Emal.
Nitu says, understand the 3P framework has been a game changer. Thank you. She's one of our students in our current FOBA class, and so thank you so much for that comment, Nitu. I'm glad that our frameworks have helped. What I would say to folks is that without getting too much into like the conversation around frameworks and stuff like that, the framework she's actually referring to there is the underlying theory that we use to create the BA skill stack. And so again, 40-minute conversation, I don't want to drag us into right now. If you go here, you'll get 3-4 videos sent to you across 4 days so that you can absorb the material. The material that we actually share here is a prerequisite for our FOBA course. So it's not just like, this isn't just surface level. If you're going to sit down and watch the video, you better have your notepad and pen ready and be taking notes, because it's quite that subject matter that we cover in these 3-4 lessons is quite dense. So it's been I think we had a question in the chat here as well. Antonio says, Antonio, I'm going to scroll up a little bit to make sure I've got all your questions because I've caught in here. He says, use a baseball analogy. We are the ultimate player on the bench. Absolutely. And I'll tell you, being a business analyst is so hard because in a technical developer's world, their role is pretty clearly defined most of the time, right? You're a .NET developer, you're a .NET developer. You just come in and develop .NET. When you're a business analyst, you don't have that luxury, okay? Because you have no idea what your role is going to look like. If your technical folks want detailed specs, you have to produce them. In some cases, the technical folks say, don't worry about the detailed specs. We got that covered. You just tell us what the user stories are, right? So yeah, we are the ultimate. I mean, we basically just got to come in and fill whatever gap is there. And that's why our skill set has to be very broad and sometimes very deep. Said the roadmap to assess our future, current state, future state, etc. Yes, we can get into all of those conversations. I'm actually going to quickly pull up since you brought it up, Antonio. I don't like to show this to a lot of beginner level analysts because it tends to kind of scare them away from the profession. But I've written an article that is, again, I'm second guessing whether I should even share this with you folks today. But I'll tell you what, and you can decide if you want to visit or not. Okay. There's an article that I've written called "The Essential Role of the Business Analyst in Digital Transformation." And if you actually just go through here, you'll start to understand, even beyond the skills that I've shown you, you'll start to understand what you truly can do. If you grow your career over a long period of time, you can become an advisor to your clients by learning everything that we have in here. So during the pre-project phase, which is a place where a lot of business analysts typically don't focus, there's actually quite a bit of work that you could be doing. That's where the current state and the future state that, Antonio, that you mentioned fits in, is typically you have to do a lot of pre-project work before the project even starts, before the funding is there, and before the software developers come on. There's a lot of pre-project work that you can do. And this is the area, I do quite a bit of this type of work now that I'm very senior in my career. I didn't start here, okay? Nobody would let me do a business case for senior management or for executives, year one in my career. But I've kind of grown my career into that path. So it's a bit of a long article. Again, I don't want to scare you away from the profession. You don't have to learn all of this at once, but this will give you a comprehensive picture of what a business analyst does across, if you have a copy of the BA BOK, across the pre-project, project, and the post-project phases of business transformation. It explains all that to you. So hopefully I didn't scare anybody away from the profession from by showing you that. You don't have to look at all of this at once. I've been doing this, like I'm formally educated starting in 2000, and I've been doing this job since 2005. So I've been in the game for a long time. So sometimes I can talk about advanced stuff, but I don't want that to scare you away from the profession. One step at a time.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much, Emal. Someone is asking if they can grab this article.
Yeah, I can make all the links to everything available, and the slide deck that we had, I can make all that available to you, Bola, afterwards. And we can possibly have the folks head over to SixDots to pick it up.
Thank you so much, Emal. Thank you so much. It's been informative and eye-opening, I must say.
My pleasure.
All right, so I'm gonna take the share back, and I think now we will move on to hear something from one of our sponsors, I want to introduce Ayo Macaulay and Abimbola. They are the co-founders of Rate. Please share your screen or take it on when you are ready.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. So I'll jump right into it. My name is Ayo Macaulay, and I am a co-founder of Rates Fintech Incorporated. And Rates simply makes it easy to swap the currencies you have for the currencies you need in a seamless and secure way. Now, when I was coming to Canada back in 2019, I just couldn't find dollars to buy anywhere. I first had to land in Canada, and through social media, I was able to change my Naira to dollars. Excuse me. And now that I'm in Canada, if I want to get the best possible exchange rate for my Canadian dollars, and in fact, my Naira, I still have to use social media to solve this problem. Now, in our community groups, we all know the risks of moving money this way. So what if we built an app, something that lets you swap dollars and Naira with your community, but without all that risk and stress? An app that lets you set your own exchange rate, pay the lowest fees, and get the best value for money at all times. Sorry, excuse me. And without wasting too much time, let me actually show you that app. Sorry, 1 second. Little technical problems here. All right, we're back up and running. Now, this is Rates live, right? I have about $60 loaded in my wallet, and I have two options. I can either list this $60 over here and exchange it with someone in the community, or if I want something quicker, I can just go right over here where I see hot swaps. Say I like this transaction, the exchange rate appeals to me, and I want to buy this. I simply click buy Nigerian Naira. I input the amount of money that I want to buy, very simple. And I hit buy, and that's it. I have my Naira in my wallet in less than a second, just like that. And this is something that people had to, go through a lot of stress, try to avoid all the problems if you are going to do this on your traditional groups. But with Rates, as you can see, it's basically a couple of clicks and you have all the access to the currencies that you want at any given time. Now, let me go back to my main presentation. Fantastic. Now, things are moving very, very quickly. We actually started our early beta just about 2 weeks ago, and already we've done about 7 million Naira in exchange funds to Canadian dollars so far, because there's more coming. And just last night, our users started testing out our newest feature, which is an automated bot that allows you to swap Naira and Canadian dollars directly on Telegram. And now, to join us in doing everything from exchanging your funds at the best possible rates, our AI and blockchain upgrades coming very soon, all the way to participating in our future seed funding rounds, simply scan this QR code and we'll be more than happy to welcome you. And I'll close by saying this. While building this solution over the past 2 years, we were told that this very thing was and is impossible. And if you believe, just like we did and still do, in the power of the community to solve its own problems in a definitive way, well, then join us. Make this thing into the community-first solution that Rates is built to be. And let's keep doing this impossible thing together. Thank you very much and have an amazing day.
All right. Thank you so very much, Mr. Ayo Macaulay. So it's rate.com, is it?
So I'm going to share the link in the chat box right now.
All right. Okay. Okay.
Once you join us, we have all the fantastic things to share with you.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much to the folks. Great. Now let's move on to the panel discussion. We have the best of the best that we've assembled. The panel discussion will be moderated or facilitated by the eloquent Marcus Udokang. We have Maria. Maria specializes in business analysis, artificial intelligence, and data. Myself and Maria actually worked, well, not together in the same team, but we worked together in Delight. At some point, Maria was the founding president of one of the most vibrant IIBA chapters in North America. We have Banu, who needs no other introduction with the game. Banu is an industry leader. I met Banu, interestingly, in 2019. We were both speaking at a conference, at a virtual conference in 2019. I think it was Innovation Summit, I can't remember. Banu's got experience working, across consulting, tech. She has a lot of experience in product management, transformation, business analysis. We also have Terhile Ikyo. Terhile has been my homeboy since 2011. You can guess how old we are. Terhile is a get-it-done kind of guy. We've worked together extensively in Stacy and Lloyd, and Terhile is also joining me in SixDots. Terhile understands business analysis. Terhile understands project management. Terhile understands growth hacking and agile, and also product management. Terhile has worked in some of the finest companies in Africa and also the US. And then we have the Energy King, Dr. Charles Igwe, PhD, someone that you may have heard, during the course of this summit. He's a professor at 2 colleges. He's a leader in the industry. He understands PM, he understands engineering, he understands agile. And then we have all the way from the UK, Kunle Abiola. Myself and Kunle Abiola connected because I saw one of the videos that he recorded for DevOps. And I saw how he explained the concept of DevOps very succinctly. And I thought, hey, why not? So he's going to be answering your questions around DevOps and cloud and how to get into that space. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Marcus as it takes us through the panel discussion. After the panel discussion, then we go into breakout rooms, and you can join whatever breakout room you want. These guys will be there, and you can ask specific questions. Marcus, all the way from Colombia, take it away.
Thank you very much, Bola. True, I'm here in Colombia, and I've been here for a few days chatting with the IIBA Colombia chapter and doing some interviews with them. So on my YouTube channel, you will see in a couple of months that interview with a number of people from that chapter. So thank you, Bola. I also want to thank Professor Ekekwe, talking about taking action with new challenges and knowing where to invest our careers. Thank you also, Jermaine, fabulous presentation on the art of storytelling to better sell ourselves to organizations in a very captivating way. And last but not least, Emal, talking about the path not taken in business analysis, all about continuous learning that we have to do and where BAs often go wrong. He emphasized in a very, very captivating way, in a very good storytelling way, how to invest in focused and integrated skills like business rules, data models, and state models. So overall, very great, fabulous presentations by Professor Ekekwe, Jermaine, and Emal. Thank you once again. I just want to bring up before I go on, Jermaine, I really liked how you emphasized the impact that your parents had on you, your immigrant parents had on you in Canada, like all of our parents have had on us. So keep that in mind as you go forward and expand your career. I was looking through the quotes, the chats, and I noticed that Susan Okpanachi, I think that's her name, said in the comments about fueling and sustaining our conviction, focus, and drive during this particular Unleashed conference. I just want to emphasize that once again. So without further ado, let's get on with this panel discussion. We only have a rule or two, and that's this. I'm going to introduce the panel guests. I'm going to give the question, and then I'm going to introduce the panel guests, and we'll give each panel guest a minute or two to answer a question. And so I won't ask the same question to all 5 of our panelists, but I will mix up the questions. So give yourself a minute or two to answer. And the answer obviously is going to be about your career and the opportunities that are available within that space of your career, right? So thank you, Bola, for introducing our panel speakers. I'm going to start off with the first question. And that's going to be for Dr. Charles Igwe. The first question is, how did you get into your career?
I leaned into my strengths. Now, I've always known I'm a good talker, and project management is centered around 2 things: communication and stakeholder management. And when you communicate, you're communicating to stakeholders. I also have a flair for people. So my career was not by accident. I started as a civil engineer, practiced for a while, and I knew this wasn't just for me. It wasn't for me because going to the field, I realized quickly, no disrespect to my civil engineer brothers, that we were bottom of the food chain. Here I was, highly specialized in my field, and I have someone blue-collared, looking all dope, coming to site and asking questions. And I quickly asked myself, what is that guy doing that I'm not doing? And I realized quickly that I wanted to be on top of the food chain, not the bottom of the food chain. On top of the food chain in the sense that I wanted to be among those making the decisions for people to implement. So that was how project management actually started for me.
Fabulous. Thank you, Charles. And the same question, how did you get into your career? The same question would be for Kunle Abiola.
Okay, thank you very much. For me, it was a mix of different things. I've always had an interest in IT, even like earlier on in my, in my years in life. And in my first year in uni, I schooled in uni in Nigeria, Obafemi Awolowo University. I began to, delve into Python programming. It was just like also from my dad. So the interest really came from my dad. I have like parents who really pushed me so much into taking every advantage of my spare time. So I just started to play around with several things, right? And it kind of clicked when I was done with university. So because of the way I positioned myself, and what I studied in university, which was electrical and electronics engineering, I started my career as a network engineer. After my first year as a network engineer, I realized it was cool, it was fun, but I didn't see myself like going to server rooms. And again, like Dr. Charles said, no disrespect to people who still do that, but I didn't see myself doing that, going to server rooms. It was too cold, so many cables. It was a lot for me. And I also had a good mentor at the time who was switching to cloud engineering. And I followed his footsteps and it worked out for me. So I switched to cloud engineering, and over the years, I kind of transitioned more into DevOps, site reliability engineering. There's a lot of overlap across those roles: SRE, which is site reliability engineering, DevOps, cloud engineering, platform engineering. They're very similar. But yeah, I've just found my passion for DevOps. And just like Bola said, I've recently been putting out content trying to break down DevOps because it's fun to me, and it's a wide career. It's a very, very wide one. There's a lot of aspects to it. But yeah, I mean, in summary, Okay.
Sorry about that. Go ahead.
Just to summarize my answer, it came really from having a good mentor. Luckily for me, it also came from my parents pushing me, earlier on in my years, helping me to make, quality decisions about my life and where I'll end up in my life, and those worked out for me. So I think having a mentor and having that drive, especially earlier on in one's years, really do matter, and they helped me.
Well, thank you, Kunle. University of Obafemi Awolowo. I was there. I was in when it was called the University of Ife. I lived in Nigeria during that time. And talking about mentors and your parents being mentors, I just want to share with you a little picture of my father when Dr. Udokang, when he moved from Nigeria to America back in 1961. So here he is at the University of California in Long Beach, which is where he went to school for 4 years. And then he went to Howard University to get his master's and ended up in Edmonton to do his PhD in political science. And believe it or not, that's where he met my mom. And, okay, the next question is, what is your day in the life of? So the next question is going to go to Terhile Ikyo. And his background is in Agile Project Leader and the digital project management. So what is your day in the life of your career, Terhile Ikyo?
All right. I thought I'd answer the question of how I got into my career because it's quite interesting. But a day in my life is typically, currently I hold the role of a senior project manager in a financial organization. And I'm handling an upgrade project. So the first thing I do is go to my mail, check. I have just 5 to 15 minutes, go through my mail, and then that kind of gives me an idea of what my day should look like. I kind of prioritize from there, and then I go. I'm an old school kind of person, so I prefer to write my notes and all of that. In previous roles where I was the head, I would overlook or oversee the other project managers under me. But currently, at the moment, I don't lead anybody. I just lead a team of people. So basically, my day starts with prioritizing and trying to find out who I need to reach out to, who I need to follow up on, where we are with the tasks that we're supposed to do. After that, I also go into my schedule. We use an enterprise tool for managing projects within the bank where I work. And so I also look at where am I in my schedule in relation to things, am I falling off, and all of that. And then after I've done my prioritization of my task, I begin responding to mail. As you know, 70 to 80% of the job of a project manager is around communication and whether verbal, written, whatever, phone calls or whatever. But a lot of your job circles around communication. So that pretty much takes the entirety of my day. And I end up by checking my checklist again, where have I done everything I am marked to do? If not, which ones am I going to carry over to the next day and things like that? That's pretty much how my day goes. And of course, as a project manager, some things, meetings, of course, you have meetings, see your calendar, there are meetings to attend. Some may not be as important as others, but then you have to be able to prioritize which meetings I physically need to be there. Not physically per se, which meetings do I really need to attend and all of that. So I end my day by checking my checklist again. Which ones have I done? What have I not done? Which one do I carry over into the other day? That's pretty much how my day goes, if it goes the way I planned. Because as a project manager, your day is always, there's something that always comes to turn around the day, or kind of misses out your plan. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Terhile. Fascinating, an exhaustive day. The next question, the same question, what is your day in the life of? We'll go to Banu Raghuraman. What is your day in the life of?
Thank you, Marcus. As of now, I'm a product manager in the consulting space, which is slightly different from, say, a traditional industry product manager. So I'll take a bit of time to explain the consulting side of it. And when you're back in the industry, you would see focus and skills on a different aspect. So specifically in consulting, it's about working within the scope of work that you have with your client. It is specifically looking at what the client really requires. So my day usually starts off by logging onto the client side, making sure I don't have any high priority emails and they are being well serviced in terms of what we need to deliver. There are aspects where we might have to think about the resourcing aspects and things like that as well. So that would include thinking about whether we have the right skill sets on the project and so on and so forth, because often I'm put in as a lead. The second set would be to understand what kind of outcomes are we looking at. Consultants are generally paid the money that they're paid because they're able to deliver things at a much faster rate. We also charge accordingly, which we're pretty notorious for. But you know, that translates into a lot of hard work that gets put in, and a lot of quickened timelines where we have to deliver things. So depending on that, we might have specific meetings with the client to say, hey, how do you want to approach this specific problem, or reviewing documents or reviewing the strategy and approach itself. And then once that time period with the client kind of wraps up, we also pivot into some of the internal activities. So we have to contribute to internal growth and learning. So working with Center of Competencies within the organization, working with my fellow POs and you know, junior PMs who are pivoting into that role, even interacting with other people or other skill sets, because I feel that as a product manager, you cannot be a standalone silo. So your ability to be good comes from, as Terhile had said, as Charles had said, it's all about the people connections, influential leadership.
You've cut out, Banu, you've cut out just for a moment. Your voice is off. Oh, she
something
froze.
That's very key, and for that you need.
She froze. Let's give her a few seconds. All right, you're back on, Banu. I can see you. Your image did freeze. Yeah,
Can you hear me
ahead.
now?
Yeah,
Okay, thank you. So I was just saying that a product leadership is all about influential leadership, which comes from building trust with people. So more than even talking about your ideas, the ability to be accepted, the ability to influence someone through your thought process, the ability to tune into their pain point or help someone else understand what pain point you are trying to alleviate. All those things require a good foundation of relationship and trust that needs to be established. And for that, networking is like a part and parcel of what I do every day. So that is another key piece that I look into even internally within the organization, because I need allies and people to support me in the work that I'm doing. So I think that would mainly be a day in my life is just thinking about the client, looking at what needs they have, and then also pivoting into things internally within my organization to ensure that the community of practice is progressing. I'm progressing my relationships, which is basically sowing seeds to be successful tomorrow and the following days as well.
Well, thank you very much. I think customer relationship and relationship management, being able to communicate with people is vitally important in your role. Thank you, Banu. Next question, for newcomers, how would you advise those newcomers who are interested in getting into a role, the path that they could take? So in the case of Maria, the question is going to go to you. You're an AI and you're a business analyst. For newcomers, how would you advise newcomers to get into either of those roles?
Thank you for the question, Marcus. I think it all, like, regardless of the role that you want to move into, you need to start with a self-assessment to understand what are you today. I cannot tell you like a blueprint because everyone has different skills. So as Emal was saying on the chat, it depends. Sometimes you have certain skills and you need to work on others. So if you are a business analyst at the moment, maybe you need to go and upskill yourself into the technical piece. So start taking some AI courses, some foundational webinars or concepts that help you understand what is all this topic about. Because as an AI business strategist, which is my current role, it is a combination of the technical piece and the business side. So understanding both sides will help you become better at your role. Now, if you, on the other hand, are better at the technical part, if you have been a machine learning engineer for a while, maybe a software developer, then you need to start working on your business side, on your communication skills, maybe how to lead, how to look at the strategy of a company, and so on. So I would say start with a self-assessment and see what is your goal. and then work on a gap analysis. So it's all about business analysis, even for their job search.
Great. Thank you, Maria. Same question for newcomers. How would you advise that they get into the role that you do? The question would go to Dr. Charles Igwe.
How do you get ahead? Two things. You have to be strategic. There's a lot of noise around certifications and buzzwords. You've got people wanting to switch from core project management to agile professionals. A couple of years ago, when Scrum became a buzzword with COVID, I got lots of folks who wanted to switch to Scrum. And why did they want to do that? Strategy. Dr. Ekekwe talked about being strategic in our plans, and it becomes very necessary and important in a data-driven world. What we think we want today is quickly changing. So what is my advice to you? Number one advice, get a mentor. You go fast when you go alone. You go further when you go together. How do you get a mentor? You need to ask yourself, where do I want to be in the next 5 years? Where do I want to be in the next 10 years? Who are people who are currently paving the way in what I want to do? Do I want to be a consultant? Who are young consultants, black-skinned immigrants? Narrows down your requirements in terms of what you need to do to scale up to be like them. So number one is get a mentor. Look for people who are where you aspire to be and follow them. When I mean follow them, I mean consciously follow them. I'm not asking you to stalk them, but follow them. When I say follow them, I mean follow them on all social media networks, on all platforms that they are on. Any post that they make, engage with the post. Why should you engage with the post? That's your mentor. That's your potential. That's the person you're aiming to be like. Now, the ends may not be immediately clear, but follow the process, which is the means. Replicate them. After you get a mentor, the second thing I would ask you to do is network like your life depends on it, because your life actually does depend on it. Networking becomes a conscious effort. Now, I say to my students, the first group of people to network with are your peers. And they ask, no, Professor, why shouldn't I be networking with you? I'm like, bro, I'm looking at my peers because I'm looking at the next opportunity, and they're thinking of a speaking engagement. They're not thinking of you as a student. They're thinking of me, Charles, because we're peers and we're ascending at the same trajectory. So network with your peers as much as you can. Drag them along. Talk to them about opportunities in your field. Talk to them about ideas. Then share those ideas with your mentor. Why is it important to network with your peers? Iron sharpens iron. Now, it's a process. You've got a mentor helping shaping you. You've got your peers dragging or forming a network together. Then, after these two things, the next thing is to ask yourself, what do I need to do to get to where I want to get to? That's where strategy comes in. And with strategic thinking, you actually have to go back to your mentor. So if you ask any great man, they would always tell you the importance of the mentor in their life. So get you a mentor and thank me later.
You fascinating answer. Bola, I know we're on time. I just want to ask, can we go to maybe one or two more questions? How are we doing on time? Okay, good. Thanks. All right. Superb. Thank you. All right. Next question is going to go to Kunle Abiola, and it's all about certifications. What are the relevant certifications in your field, and how important are certifications to a career in what you do?
Awesome. So I'll start with the latter, which is how important they are, and just what I think about certifications. So personally, I've taken a lot of certifications like over the course of my career, and certifications can be tricky, right? That's what I think personally. They can be very tricky is very possible to just go into the world of certifications and probably still go for interviews and you're still not able to get jobs. Why? Because you didn't really get the knowledge that you're supposed to get out of those certifications. So, I think it's a very, it's a very wide topic and I can go on and on. I actually have my last YouTube video was about this. It was about certifications, DevOps certifications, talking about how important they are. So to answer the question, there are some relevant certifications for DevOps engineers, but I think beyond certifications, actually having the hands-on experience is definitely going to be on top, right? That's what will make you stand out. That's what will build the skills that you require to be a world sought after DevOps engineer, and would help you to actually be able to, deliver, good results and the best results that you can to organizations or even to yourself. So for certifications, there are really good certifications like the Kubernetes certifications, right? So there's certifications like Certified Kubernetes Administrator, Certified Kubernetes application developer, and security specialist. Why I hammer on the Kubernetes certifications and why I really see them as important is because they are some of the few certifications that in DevOps that are hands-on. And I really rate the hands-on certifications because they drill you. You're on a 3-hour intense certification. You have to, it is like a simulation of real-world scenarios. The multiple choice certifications also are kind of like simulations, but it's easy to find your way around them, or easier. Let me not say easy, but it's easier to find your way around them. In the hands-on ones, if you don't know what you're doing, then you cannot pass them. You really need to know like how to practicalize that knowledge, that theoretical knowledge. So there are certifications like the, AWS, the cloud, provider certifications, GCP certifications, AWS certifications like the Certified Developer Associate or Certified DevOps, professional, and each of the cloud platforms, the major ones, have like DevOps, tailored certifications, and I think they're really good. I have some of them. So, and Docker certified administrator is really good for DevOps engineers. There's Terraform certifications. There's quite a lot of them, but personally, of all the certifications I've taken, I would say the Kubernetes certifications have really stood out to me. And, have helped me I've been able to apply the knowledge I've gained from those certifications in my job, like more than any other certifications that I have. So that's my take on certifications. It's tricky, but it really helps. It's a differentiator in it helps you to stand out.
Great.
You actually get the knowledge from those certifications. Yeah, that's my take on it.
You were just chopping off a bit. That's okay.
Is it good now?
Screen that is a bit of pardon. No, it was good. We did hear you.
Marcus, I think you're the one.
It's not you, it's me.
Perfect. Okay.
Sorry, I'm back. Yeah, I got disconnected, but I'm back again.
Okay.
All right.
Cool.
All right,
So,
we'll go. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
I think I was done, but yeah, in summary, I would say certifications, the most important thing when it comes to certifications, especially as a DevOps engineer, is actually getting the knowledge, not just doing it to like boost like one's LinkedIn profile or to be like, oh yeah, I've taken this certification. Oh yeah, I have this badge, but actually understanding what you're taking, like going through the course, making sure you understand every step before you go to the next topic, like building up that foundation and gaining the knowledge. Nothing beats that. But I would say beyond certifications, in IT generally, for most tech focused and hands-on, technical career paths, the experience you get on the job and that hands-on experience and working with projects, I would say they come first for me.
Fantastic. Well, thank you, Kunle. Very quickly, Banu, quick question to you. What are the three core skills required to succeed in your field?
Yeah. So in product management, I would definitely say the first thing is relationship building. It is very experiential based type of role whereby you are learning from wisdom of other people. It's not just about going to the classroom, exactly what Kunle was just mentioning. There's only so much that a classroom can teach you. But without applying all those skill sets, you're not going to go very far. And PM roles are very heavily geared towards your experience and whether or not you're able to achieve something. So definitely relationship building for that wisdom and the influential leadership aspect part. The second thing is curation. You will be bombarded with requests from all different directions, and you will have to say no. And you will have to prioritize, and you will have to understand what is the primary goal of your product and what is it that you want to achieve. So the ability to curate in today's world in general, I think is very key. And on top of that, I think in product management, really understanding your specific goals is really important. And the third thing that I wanted to highlight is just growth mindset, because I don't think a product manager will ever be static in terms of their learning. I think that applies to every human being out there. But I think in the career itself, I think I can say for that for myself as well. A few years back, a product manager was really a person who was bringing everyone together on a project. It was sort of like a hub and spoke kind of concept, whereby you're kind of talking to different people, you're making sure everyone is going in the same direction. Then there was a turn towards like building use cases and making sure that the requirements were done properly and do they really understand the business. And now it's gone to a point where we have to act like, predictive AI pretty much, because we have to anticipate what is coming out in the market. Are we able to adapt ourselves to make sure that our products will sustain and stay profitable in the future as well? So having that growth mindset really opens you up for a lot more opportunities and being able to be valid and current in the ever-changing market in general. So those are the three things that I would say is number one, being having an open mindset. Number two, being able to curate and making sure that you are picking the right thing that you need. And number three is relationship management.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Banu. Last question of the day will go to Maria. How do you think AI will impact your industry in the next few years?
I think it's going to make a great impact as it is doing it at the moment. As you know, this field is like the AI field, to be more specific, is changing so rapidly. Every day there are many new things coming up. So I think that we need to keep upskilling ourselves and keep learning. In the future, I envision that this role that didn't even exist last year, AI business strategies, could be even be replaced by AI itself. So the thing here is to keep having that growth mindset and being very curious, because there are things that AI will not be able to replace, like our ability to communicate with others and have that human touch. So I think if we can keep ourselves upskilling, but also being really good at communicating complex topics to non-technical stakeholders, we'll be safe at least.
Great. Thank you, Maria. I want to thank Dr. Charles Igwe. I want to thank Kunle Abiola, Terhile Ikyo, Banu Raghuraman, and Maria Becerra. Beautiful panel discussion, and just a big apologies. We had a hack earlier, a screen share hack, and we had these two images pop up that shouldn't have been there, but don't worry, it's all been taken care of. And back to you now, Bola.
All right, thank you so very much. The eloquent Marcus, my big brother, he's one of the first people that I think he's the first person that I talked to when I was trying to create SixDots. Then it was called Technify. And I was having a lot of issues with where I was working and starting a new company. But before we go into the breakout room, I just want to quickly introduce SixDots to everyone, and I'm going to be really fast about that. The big village. Welcome, SixDots. People typically will say, why are you starting SixDots? Well, everybody has probably seen this quote before. It's by a popular guy, an American. It says the graveyard is the richest place on earth. because it is there you will find all the hopes and dreams that were never fulfilled, all the inventions that were never made, all the songs that were never sung. And we said, this shouldn't happen again. So we are creating SixDots to change this story. We don't want people's potentials to go to the graveyard with them. We want to work with people. We want to work with individuals to realize their greatest objectives. Because there's a part of the good book that says, putting captivity into captive, he gave gifts to men. And we want to work with people to actually put their gifts to use. And that's the reason why we're creating SixDots. And we're solving 3 key problems with SixDots. The problem of underutilization. If you think that you are a manager right now, or if you are a manager right now, I can guarantee that that's not the best that you can be. You can be much more than being a manager. If you're operating at level 3 right now, that is not your full potential. You can operate at level 6 and level 7 and level 8. So we want to solve the problem of underutilization. You have so much more. The second problem that we're trying to solve is underrepresentation or underpresentation. And then the third is underachievement. So people typically will say, tell us about SixDots, or what is SixDots? Really, SixDots is not about me, it's not about Terhile, it's not about Banu, it's not about Marcus, it's not about us. It's about you. It's about that great achiever who is not living their full career potential. That's why we are creating SixDots. It's about that professional who's tired of their current state, who yearns for a change, who wants more. It is about that potential leader who's currently not leading, but is meant, is built, is created to be a leader. It's about that fresh graduate who believes that they are made for more. When I left university, I went to Ife, Abafana University, by the way, arguably one of the best universities in Africa. When we were leaving, they told us we should go and change the world. So I started in a bank, and I was put in operation. You know, someone comes in, they want a deposit check, you collect it, you give them check. 2 months after, I said, no, I wanted to do more. I could do much more than this. And then I got a job in an entertainment company, and I was doing customer service. And after about 2 years, I wanted more. That was my story. And that's what we want to use SixDots to do to fresh graduates. It's about that guy, the likes of Ayo Macaulay and Bimbo Adegbite, who have great ideas, who are inventors and innovators. And they need to give that idea wings. Those are the people that we had in mind when we created SixDots. And we work with 3 key things. We work on their mindsets. We work on their skill sets. And we provide them with the tool sets to become much more. We will never measure our success by the amount of money that we've made, or by the amount of lives that have been transformed. Because it's not about us. SixDots is about you. And what we're doing is we're creating a home. We're not creating a company. We're creating a home where dreams are made and potentials are realized. That's why we registered the company as SixDots Growth. At SixDots, we have one unifying vision: to be the home where dreams are realized, to be the home where people live their full potential. At SixDots, we have two target audience, just like Prof said: the career professionals and the innovators, the entrepreneurs, the people who want to support, who want to realize their fullest potential by supporting dreams, other people's dreams, and the people who have their own dreams. At SixDots, we have three pillars: mindset, the can do, the will do, skill set required to do it, and the tool set that will enable that. At SixDots, we have four core values: tenacity, commitment, results. At SixDots, we have 5 practices, and we have 6 guiding principles. I present to you SixDots, your home for growth and transformation. And we're starting with a big dream. They call this bag. By 2030, this is how we measure our achievement. Our achievement is not to make $1 million, because we're not raising dollars, we're raising leaders. We're raising people who will live their full potential. So today, we're launching this big initiative to transform 1 million individuals by 2030 with the hashtag 1M30. And we're assembling like-minded professionals who share the vision and the dream, who see training, who see empowerment as a vehicle to transform lives and not to make money. The likes of Banu, who's going to be taking product management. We're blessed to have Marcus as our strategic advisor. All the way from the UK, we have Kunle, who's going to be leading the DevOps class. Terhile leads the digital ecosystem. The likes of Yetunde and so many others. And this is what we want to achieve with SixDots. And I hope that by 2030, we can all say that 1 million people and counting. That is SixDots, your home for growth. You want to join the community. You want to join the community. You want to join this movement. And let's grow. Let's transform together. That is me introducing SixDots to you. Thank you, and I hope that we'll see you on your journey to growth and transformation. The website is open. It's just V1, www.sixdots.io. We'll see you in some of our sessions, some of our classes. Thank you. And now let's have some coaching. So I have created breakout rooms, and we have Kunle in one breakout room, We have Terhile in one breakout room. We have Maria in one breakout room. We have Banu in one breakout room. We have Dr. Charles in one breakout room. Emal will move around if he has the time. Marcus will move around if he has the time. I will move around if I have the time as well. I'm going to open the breakout room right now. Join any of the breakout rooms that you want. Go there and ask the coaches and the speakers and the panelists specific questions. And if you're done, you can go to another breakout room. We'll have this for 10 minutes, and then we'll play our final game, another $100 from yet another sponsor. I'll open the breakout room. It's going to be for 10 minutes, actually. And then I'll see you. So you see the breakout room, choose, and then just go to any of the breakout rooms that you want. I'll see you after 10 minutes. So the panelists, you see the room that you can just go to right now.
Oh, I gotta figure out my breakout rooms.
Which one do you want to go? I can just.
I was just in Maria's, and I think I got myself booted out by accident. I hit the wrong button. Let's see, rooms. Oh, okay. I think I figured out how to join her back.
Okay.
Hello, Coach Bola.
Hello.
Good afternoon. How can I join the breakout?
Okay, which one do you want to join? I can.
Either way, one, I don't know.